Hello and welcome to Champ Select, your go-to competitive Legends of Runeterra podcast. I'm Alex, as per usual. Joining me are my two co-hosts, Noble
Sharima!
and Hugh.
Hello.
Sorry, I got carried away.
Today we have a pretty interesting topic that I think we just wanted to spend a lot of time to theorize and discuss because, we're a bunch of game design nerds and game developer is pretty intriguing to us. And so, like, the competitive side of the game has always fascinated us from a particular point. And I think that, like, this week we just got a question of the week that kind of just knocked out of the park exactly the community discourse that we want to be talking about today. So why don't you hit us with that, Hugh?
Yeah, so our question of the week is from Keon Spy, and it is, what is your opinion on infinite loop decks? And we have decided that because of how incredibly relevant this topic is this week, we're just going to do the core of our episode on infinite loops as a whole and the specific deck that is currently an issue.
Spawning the
debate. Yeah,
correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, so should we start with a little bit of history about infinite loops and Legends of Runeterra?
I think, yeah, a little bit of context will probably be a good way to shed some light on it.
Yeah, so Hush used to be 3 mana like it is now, but when you played it, it created another copy of itself in hand. Don't ask me why the hell it did that. It's already plenty good. But that led to a deck with the Ionia card, the 6 mana 3/5. I think it's called Cloud Drinker.
That sounds right.
You, that makes your burst spells cost 1 less in combination with Dusk Dawn to create infinite 0 cost burst hushes, and then you like hush their whole board, and you can just kind of like hold your opponent hostage playing 0 mana hushes, and it didn't like really win, if I recalled correctly.
It literally didn't win.
Yeah, you just kind of like could hold your opponent hostage if you were losing.
Yeah.
I wasn't playing a lot during that time, so I don't know exactly why like anyone would do that, but
so
that was, and then that card got nerfed in part because of that.
Yeah, so that's the closest this game has ever had. Oh, actually, there was one other, the Evershade Stalker thing.
Yeah, that's one. There's a few different really like janky, or maybe I guess that's the only infinite one.
Yeah, Evershade Stalker is
yeah.
actually infinite. You can actually do it, and actually is a win condition because you are making creatures with it that can attack. Obviously, your board space is you're limited to
just the 6.
Yeah, just the 6. So you need to find the deck had a way of making them very large, but there's still 6 creatures that you're just attacking with that don't have overwhelm. So even though you're going infinite, you're not necessarily winning that turn. And between that deck and the deck that has infinite hushes, which doesn't actually win, it just makes your opponent frustrated to the point that they concede by wasting their time because you can never end the game ever.
Yeah.
That's that deck's win con.
I think that it's pretty inarguable that is just not a reasonable place to
hostage
be.
taking is not a thing.
That is not acceptable gameplay. And I think everybody's in agreement there. Like, there's some discourse about whether or not your combo can win the game. Like, if your combo can win the game, there's a lot more merit to it.
Yeah.
Innately. But yeah, your combo that can't win the game, literally just holding people's time hostage. That ban that garbage. Yeah.
Yeah. So now there is a new deck that has an infinite combo.
Yes.
That we'll get into the mechanics of it in a second, but basically the infinite combo just has an engine, and eventually, over the course of infinite casts of lead and follow, eventually kills you with flawless
I think we should go
duets.
back to like how we get here, because I'm just looking at the deck list. It took me a really, really long time to figure out like what the hell this deck was supposed to do, and then like playing it, I then had even more time of like, how the hell am I supposed to prioritize this? What are my actual combo pieces? How does this actually win a game?
Yeah.
And not until I played a friendlies and someone like let me go off did I like finally really like start to get it. And so this is the auction like Zillion deck that has popped up on ladder recently.
No, that's not the one that's the issue.
This definitely has auction in it, right?
Yeah, no, the one that's a bigger problem. So the Zillion deck can actually win the game in a reasonable time frame. The one that's really a problem is the one that does not have Zillion. It's just auction.
Oh, yeah. I meant I said that weirdly, but I definitely meant mono Auction / Auction Jillian. But I okay.
The reason I didn't mention the Zillion one is because I think that deck isn't a problem. I think the mono Auction one is a problem.
Yeah. So what is the deck? How does the deck get cast all these things infinitely?
So Auction, when he flips, makes the Warlord's Horde, and when that pops, when the landmark he makes pops, it gives you an option of 3 cards, one of which says draw 2 cards. It's 0 cost focus. Draw 2 cards for the remainder of the turn. Your cards cost 1 less mana.
Pretty good.
Yep. And so you take this card, and then you play a Zephyr Sage, copying that card in hand. You then play both copies of this card, and then everything for the rest of the turn costs 2 less mana, and you've drawn 4 cards at that point. Now, 2 less mana is like the bare minimum you need, because now...
Yeah, that's the break point.
That's the break point, because...
Now we can go infinite.
Because it turns out, when you have 2 Navori Conspirators in hand, you can play a Navori Conspirator, and then play another one, and return the other Navori Conspirator to your hand.
Dun, dun,
now,
dun.
What that... and that card does basically what I said it does. You
2 mana 2/2 elusive that allows you to... That says play, recall another ally.
Exactly. And...
It doesn't say target, so it's weird that it counts for the landmark thing, but like...
Yeah, that's why I thought it was weird too. But Warlord's Horde, the landmark that makes the card that makes all your cards cost less, says when you target an ally, count down 1. So, because Navori Conspirator makes you target your own ally to recall it, you can infinitely recur the conspirators and infinitely count down your Warlord's Horde to make more of these. The deck plays pretty much every card in the game that can recall units within reason. Like, it has 3 copies of Retreat, 2 copies of Lead and Follow. I think it has 3 copies of Recall.
Yeah, it has like a Homecoming.
It's got a bunch of ways to recall things, and you basically recur your Auction, and you recur your Navori Conspirators, and you keep making enough of this card that makes all your cards cost less, to a point where you set it up so that you get to play the card Lead and Follow for 0 mana, bounce, it returns a thing to your hand, makes a 0 cost flawless duet.
Yep.
And then you sorry, I skipped a step. After you make God, this is complicated. Then which is part of the problem. So there's one step I'm forgetting, which is very important. You need to make a copy of Zephyr Sage.
You recall the Zephyr Sage, and then you play the Zephyr Sage, and then copy for 0 mana, because you need to have done it 6 times.
No. Okay. That's one of the ways to do it.
You recall the Zephyr Sage, and then you copy the Lead and Follow, and then you Lead and Follow the Zephyr Sage, and then you Zephyr Sage the Lead and Follow.
Right. The other way to do it is there's another one of the cards in auctions that you can make with the landmark that says make an ally that has died this turn.
This game that costs 0 and
yeah. Yes. Okay. And it makes you, and the idea is to make a Zephyr Sage, hopefully, if you have orchestrated that.
Yeah, you have to have had a Zephyr Sage die that game. So, you can't necessarily
in my experience, that never happens, because you don't play your Zephyr Sage until the combo turn.
I know, and then you...
The decks that I've seen only play 1 Zephyr Sage, and you need to... And you don't have a way to kill it. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. The only reason I'm doing it this way is because Swim created the deck, and then he demonstrated the deck in a video, and that's how he did the combo.
Interesting.
Yes.
How many Zephyr Sages was he playing?
1. He did it.
Okay, this is nonsense, because you need this just doesn't work.
It literally does work, because I watched
it. Gives you a copy of the Zephyr Sage, so it would work.
Right?
What are you saying?
You write of calling away the Zephyr Sage so that you can reanimate it.
Correct.
It's also just much easier to bounce it.
And you can just play Resurrection twice as well.
There's
to
a
get
bunch
your 2 Zephyr Sages.
Basically, the point is there's a bunch of ways to make all your cards cost 0 mana, and eventually you will have a loop where you get to cast Lead and Follow infinite times with flawless, and which makes flawless duet, and you cast that infinite times. So
Which kills your opponent eventually.
Eventually.
Yep.
By virtue of hitting them with 2
Unless they have a
1/1s.
Radiant Guardian, and then you need to find a different way to win.
Yes. Yeah, there are some things, but the thing is, you can just do it. You can pass the turn and then bounce it. You can return that to their hand, and the next turn you can just go off again.
Well, no, because the things costing less only lasts for a turn.
Well, I know, but you can just do it again.
Yeah, you'll have to set it up again, but
And it
is. So I want to. Can I talk for a second about this combo?
Yeah, go ahead.
When I played it okay, this combo is very, very, very hard to actually do because you need to play Auction and then you need to flip Auction, which is 8 targets / strikes / turns, and then you need to. Probably, I've seen it most often with getting that double the landmarks countdown thing.
promising
So then you
future,
need to play
yeah.
this like 4-mana slow spell or the 6-mana unit Zephyr Sage on the thing that you create in your hand. And then you need to have both conspirators and like not have had to play them to do anything. But crucially, just looping conspirators isn't actually infinite because it counts down 1 Warlord's Horde all the way, and then you need a way to replay your Auction. You need a way, or have him strike. You need a way to create another Warlord's Horde because just the targeting doesn't do that. So then you have to have a recall spell 4 times, and you're drawing a bunch of cards the whole time, so it happens almost every time. But like, one of the problems is that once you demonstrate the conspirator loop, the game is not over. Like, you need to be able to recall your Auction every time with something different. If you have Solitary Monk, then the Solitary Monk bounces the Auction and this conspirator, and then you replay Auction, replay conspirator, bouncing Auction, then play Solitary Monk, pick it up, and then it is actually infinite, but you need to have done it 3 times for that. So
Yes.
The real problem is that it takes like 20 or 30 actions, which translates to like 3 or 4 minutes, and sometimes more. I comboed for
Way.
like 5 or 6 once when I wasn't very good at it, up to 10. Like, it takes a long fucking time to go off.
It's way more than 4 or 5 minutes. It's like I think it's actually like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's-
of
Yeah,
this.
they make you do the whole thing.
I've heard some estimates of forcing your opponent to, and this is not counting time from demonstrated the loop to dead. Like on a lot of times it can take 10 to 12 minutes for your opponent to be able to demonstrate the loop just because the animations take a long time.
The animations
And
take a long time.
The
and-
game actions
yeah.
take a long time. Your opponent has to pass back a lot. And, it can take 20 minutes to demonstrate your combo. And then if your opponent doesn't just concede to it, then you have to sit there and play your flawless duets and your blade dances for like another 5 minutes at least, probably. And then, like, heaven forfend, your opponent wants to rope you. Because they can, there's no... It sucks that they do, but there's no reason they can't. Like, they can just rope you for doing this too. Like, it can take a long time to execute this combo, especially because, and one of the most miserable parts about this combo is from the other end, you definitely have to sit there and watch it for most of the time because, like Noble said, they need a way to recall Auction every time until they've gotten at least...
And like, sometimes you can make them have a second one with like a random get excited on Auction, which could potentially stop the combo in its tracks.
Yeah,
And then
so
like, yeah,
you can keep them honest. It's a really, so like, obviously, it spent that long explaining it. It's a weird combo.
It's very convoluted.
Yeah, it's very convoluted. It's got a lot of moving pieces. It's not easy to execute.
No, it is not.
there are like 3 ways to win and 2 different ways, even when we were describing it to like start it off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And do you guys think this deck is particularly good?
I think it is.
You think it is? You think it's
it
quite
is.
good? How good do you think it is?
I played this deck a little bit on ladder, and it can't beat an aggro deck to save its life.
I think that's
and it just
true.
is bad. And I would never play this deck on ladder because of how long it takes to win. But on the other hand, I also just think it's not very good. Like, it just gets wrecked by Sivir's Ed and Sivir Auction. I do not think this deck is anything close to too powerful on a power level scale.
I'm not going to say
Maybe think it's refined a little more at will be, but like, the fact that you have to play the Auction and then have 8 turns or strikes or recalls happen before you flip it, and then you need to do 8 more before you can actually combo, and you need another 3 pieces outside of that, is just like, the combo is just way too fragile. Like, it just does not happen in games where you're actually getting pressure put on you, in my experience.
Yeah.
What's your reasoning for liking it, Hugh?
I think that the deck is incredibly powerful when the pilot is proficient with it, and that's just very hard to do. Like I played,
Oh, that's fair. I was not playing it well.
yeah, I planned on. So in order to prepare for this episode, I planned on like I was going to go home and I was going to play this deck a bunch, right? I was like, okay, I'll go home and start playing immediately, and I'll just play until I go to bed. I'll get like 10 games in, right? I played 2.5.
And a half.
Yeah, because that half was me like fumbling around trying to figure out what the deck did, and then eventually just sort of dying. And then I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm gonna go and watch that video to see how it actually happens. And I watched the video. And I was like, oh god,
There's a lot.
this is a lot. I need to actually do this. I need to do it on ladder against a real person, which is very hard to do. Like the deck is very difficult to play correctly and play well, but when you do, it feels so weirdly resilient. Because the thing is, once you a part of so the card Concussive Palm, the 4 mana fast, stun a thing, make a 3/2, right?
Yeah.
Something that I frequently forget is that when you recall the creature it makes, it turns back into a Concussive Palm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget text, I think, but it comes up. Like it comes up.
Yeah.
You know?
And with this card's just this deck's abundance of recall effects and the Eye of the Dragon is really the
Eye of the Dragon is
all-star
so
of the
good.
deck.
Eye of the Dragon
Oh,
is
I guess
just an
my version
absolute
wasn't
house.
even playing Eye.
Oh god, no, that doesn't work. You can't play this deck without Eye of the Dragon. You said this deck is bad against aggro, and I was like, that's not really that true. And then
I
that
do
makes
think
sense.
even with Eye, it because like you need to mulligan for combo pieces if you ever want your combo to happen, and then none of them are like playable before turn 6 when you're comboing.
No, because your combo is going to happen once you start. Okay,
You need
like,
action.
yeah, you
Let's
need to
start there.
You need to. Yeah, Akshan is a great starter, but like
Yeah.
you need to just be alive for a bit. Like you don't actually want like promising future in your opening hand. Really, like this is not that card can wait. Like your combo piece, your font that you're getting that's making all your cards cost less draws 2 cards. Like one of the harder parts of the deck is keeping cards out of your hand. Like you will draw the combo pieces
Oh
eventually.
yeah, when I was comboing, I was playing Eye of the Dragon. I have now remembered, and I looked at the swim list. And during the combo, so one thing was it was taking about half again as long because my board was full because the conspirator animation of replacing it, bouncing it, and then sliding over to fill the empty slot takes so much more time than when you have the extra board slot already. So I like right of calling to my own guys for no value because I had no champions left. And like just to get them off my board so that I could like play more Preservariums and have the slots to actually move the thing through. And then another thing that I did was with Solitary Monk, I strategically bounced my Eye of the Dragons to obliterate them to free up hand space. Like I bounced to my hand a bunch of units, including 2 Eye of the Dragons, and then a little bit later, an Eye of the Dragon and a random Treasure Hunter or whatever. I don't actually remember what it was. It wasn't Treasure Hunter. To obliterate them, to get them out of the cycle, because I was playing Solitary Monk as part of the combo, and I needed the fucking hand space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not only is this combo very difficult to execute, very complicated, it's complicated because it's active. You have to manage the combo, you have to manage hand size, and you have to manage very limited board space all at the same time. And you have to plan far ahead for all of these things. And and all of that together makes for very long turns. You have to sit there, even though you know you're going to do. You have to sit there, think, and make sure that
You
you're
don't
about
screw it up.
Exactly. You have to make sure what you're doing isn't going to lose you the game in 2 turns. Like, there's so much to this deck, and it's just, oh god, it's so ridiculous. But I do think the deck is good, and that in the hands of a skilled pilot, it is just powerful. I mean, I think it's much more resilient to aggro than any of us are giving it credit for. Eye of the Dragon is such an insane card, and
I don't know. It's just not even good. It's not even that good against Sivir Zed, which is kind of the problem. And like,
I didn't like I said,
it was the
didn't get.
Sivir Zed just absolutely dumpsters it, and like
That could be true. I didn't actually play against Sivir Zed.
Well, that's probably good. Yeah, it probably is not good against that deck. That sounds right to me. So that brings us, all of this prelude brings us to the discord around, or the discourse rather, around the deck is is this a reasonable thing to have in our game? You know, it is an infinite combo that takes a very long time, and I think that is kind of the like tipping point for me. Is that like, I'm all for infinite combos in games if they can exist in a reasonable fashion. I don't think that infinite combos are an unfair way to win. I don't think that they're inherently problematic to fun gameplay. I've never had a real problem with combo decks. I know that a lot of people do. A lot of people, I mean, just like a general community feeling is that people don't like combo decks that much in as a whole. But I think that completely on like aside from a power level standpoint, I don't think the deck is too powerful. I don't, even if it's a good deck, I certainly don't think it's the best deck, and maybe I could be proven wrong with a particularly broken version that somebody puts in front of my hands, but it just seems like there's too many strings for it to ever really be like something just completely unstoppable. There just have to be ways to interact with it at certain points if the deck really is that much of a problem, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, if you kill the flipped Oshton landmarks, often they're just like dead in the water. Like, it's going to take them so much time to like...
Landmark removal just kills this deck.
Yeah, and it's shocking how many different layers of interaction you could have for the deck. So I really don't think the power level's problem.
One of the conspirators.
Yeah, I do think that this deck needs to go.
Yes.
It's too miserable. And I don't say that too much, but man, is playing against and playing with, to be honest, this deck completely miserable. It's just such a horrible ladder experience because when your opponent starts the combo, like when I was playing against this deck, when my opponent started the combo, I wanted to just concede on the spot. Because it took my opponent like 15 minutes to show me that I was dead while I had to keep clicking. Okay, like I listened to 3 songs by the time, like at the start of it, I was like, maybe I should just scoop. And then I was like, no, man, I'm in Diamond 1. Like I can't scoop this game. Like even if it's close, like these games matter too much. And then like, you know, I listened to 3 songs, part of the 4th one or whatever, had time to go turn the music on because I knew I was going to be there for a little bit. And then finally conceded, you know, 10 minutes later or more, right? Like, and that's after, that was the first instance that he demonstrated having having infinite. Like I did not make him play all the flawless duets or anything. Like that was the first moment I saw the 0 mana, like I was like, boom, that's all the pieces. All right, good. Next game. Like get me out of here.
Exactly. Like just demonstrating the core gameplay loop, because normally a lot of combo decks you are able to show that you can execute the loop of the combo that you have to do, like let's say you have to do it 50 times. What you can do is you can demonstrate the first time or the second time that you know how to do the core gameplay loop of the infinite combo. Yeah. You do it once or twice, your opponent sees that and they're like, okay, this guy knows how to do it. He's done it a few times now, or even once now. You can decide how many times you want to make them do it. But you see that they've done it, they know how, and it's possible. They have infinite, so you know that you're going to lose eventually. And that's normally when you go, okay, I'll concede now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that the infinite just lets you draw more cards and you still keep needing the, like, other ways to recall Akshan, and then eventually, like... Because the Conspirator loop doesn't just straight draw your deck. You need these ways to recall Akshan in the middle, and then, like... You need, it's very, very frustrating.
My opponent was, like, drawing cards, and, like, was like repeat drawing cards, and like it got to a point where like I pulled up a list, like, and then like clicked on how many cards my opponent had left to see if it was mathematically possible for them to miss, because I was so ready to concede. Like I just wanted an excuse to be done with it. I was like, is it even, am I mathematically dead here? Like I wanted to know, and I was able to like math it out before the combo was done too. Like, you know, like
you can't do that repeat thing like it works on some other online clients like Magic the Gathering Online and MTGA, where all they're doing is like tapping and untapping one creature to deal damage to every time or whatever. And yeah, it's like 30 clicks, but one, it happens a lot faster than passing priority every time because your opponent can basically shields down and auto pass. And, you know, that one actually then kills you. Like, you can't... Yeah.
And so I wish that there was like a nice way to deal with this. And to be honest, I've spent a lot of time thinking the last couple days about how you should be able to fix this, because I feel like this should be fixable. I feel like you should be able to, in some way, allow infinite combos in this game without making it horrible to play or play against. But I'm kind of stumped. It feels like there's kind of a lot of variables that seem pretty hard, and I feel like it should be possible, though. I don't know.
I think a simple infinite combo, yes. This is not a simple infinite combo.
Yeah.
The problem with Runeterra is that, like, since you have limited board space, infinite units is out, and since you don't have, you know, activated abilities, really, like you would have in Magic or some other card games, that kind of loop is out. Since we have a fixed mana system, infinite gems is mostly out, though you could do something really weird with, like, Veiled Temple-esque effects. But, like, they are kind of really careful about printing those.
But infinite gems still aren't infinite without infinite cards. So, like, the thing is that, like, at the end of the day, like, Runeterra loops, like, I feel like by game design have to be infinite like infinitely created cards. That's the only way to loop, right? I think.
Yeah, probably. At least, definitely currently. We mentioned briefly the Zillion version. It's the same thing, except instead of the painstaking and horrible, eye-gougingly slow lead and follow infinite flawless duets method of killing you, they make a bunch of time bombs and just play 20 time bombs and kill you, which is way faster.
Way faster.
Like, that's...
I actually don't think... I don't think it matters, because at the point that it's infinite, so you can concede. Like, I don't think that actually cuts down the time problem that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, not
like,
really.
If you want to sit through all the lead and follows and, like, ping away your unit's health one by one, gaining 3 life from your 3/3 lifesteal unit the whole time, like, honestly, that's on you. But, like, like, if that's how you want to spend your time, go ahead. But, like, the time bump doesn't really kill any faster. It actually is worse because it keeps shuffling them in your deck, and then you have to keep finding ways to draw them. It actually takes more time.
I don't care enough to argue this point.
Yeah, whatever.
This doesn't matter. The core of the
rather moot.
Yeah. Anyway, basically,
I'm just saying they both ways suck to win.
Yeah, like, both ways suck. Yeah, that's a real good point. Is that there isn't a clean way to win with this infinite combo.
Yeah, and normally I am very on board with infinite combos should be allowed to exist. Like, they should. It's okay for an infinite combo to exist in a game. What is not okay is sitting there for 30 minutes on ladder and making your opponent sit there and watch you. Like, it's...
Yeah.
And another thing is, if you screw up this combo, if you somehow don't find the cards you need and all you have is just a couple Devori conspirators that are free, you can then, instead of trying to win the game, you can then hold your opponent hostage.
Yeah.
You can still take them hostage with just that little small infinite loop, regardless. And then you can make them...
Which is really kind of a problem.
Exactly. So, like, you don't even have to win the game to win games with this deck, with the combo. Like, you can force people to lose. Yeah. Go ahead.
Someone was talking on Twitter about how their opponent, how they had a Star Spring that was winning them the game at the end of round, and so their opponent couldn't win, so they just held them hostage for conspirators, and then they just, like, sat there for 20 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, trying to, like, in Masters, trying to, like, whoever has a thing to do first.
Thankfully for our Star Spring player, and I remember this post, thankfully for the Star Spring player, they just clicked auto pass and went and, like, made dinner or something and came back to a victory screen because there was nothing their opponent could do.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah. So thankfully, justice was served in that instance. But
I will say
know.
I did re-enable auto pass the second time I ran into this deck.
yeah. Oh, that's a must.
Yeah, which is I think that's a PSA for the competitive players out there. I feel like most people have turned off auto pass.
I can't. I can't imagine playing with auto pass anymore.
Yeah,
it's
at
weird.
this point, but yeah, you're gonna want to turn auto pass on when you're playing against this one. Yeah.
I would just like to say I have not won with this deck on ladder or had lost to this deck on ladder. Like I have not seen the deck be good. I played some scrims with it and went like 2-1, and then I tried to play it to practice in some norms, and then of course people just auto conceded as soon as I got even close to the combo because it wasn't worth their time, which makes sense.
Yeah,
but
that
like
sounds
it
about right.
was kind of frustrating that there wasn't any way to test the deck.
I played against it 3 times. I've played against it 3 times. And I only lost 1 game, but I played against it with like Siverzed. I think played against it with Ez Karma one time. And then some weird Viego pile, I think, probably.
Yeah.
That's about the snapshot of my recent laddering. And
is Ez Karma like actually good? Wait a minute.
Ez Karma? Yeah.
People are
quite good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's. I actually saw some data got posted on Twitter. I think like today, like quite recently, that it had the highest win rate in Diamond Plus in the last 3 days. I think.
Anyway,
which is kind of cool. But anyway, like it never felt like it did. Like I lost a game to it, but that was the game where I was playing a like Viego pile and had a pretty bad draw. And like didn't feel like my deck was all that powerful, and then I lost to an infinite combo on like turn 11 or something. So I felt pretty fine. Like I was like, yep, like my deck kind of missed this game. Like didn't apply a lot of pressure, gave him infinite time, just drew a bunch of cards, couldn't beat Eye of the Dragon, and then lost. Like sounds about right. The 2 games I won, it felt like I was applying pressure, and they just kind of didn't have time to piece it all together. One game they just never played action. That was easy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and now let's say that this deck is terrible. Let's say, for the sake of argument, this deck is like really, really, really unplayable, like,
horrendous, even.
like Echo Zillion unplayable.
Wow,
like,
worse, maybe
even worse. Let's say it's even worse than that.
Let's put it into the like
30% win rate.
Vlad tier.
But it'll still be the 8th most played deck, is what you're saying. If it's Echo Zillion bad,
it's deep tier.
So let's say the deck is terrible. Now, even if the deck is bad, it still is an infinite combo deck that can take people hostage, takes forever to operate, and because it's a combo deck, it makes it hard for late game control decks to exist.
It's rough
because
So they should just make Navori Conspirator more mana. That'll fix it.
Oh god.
Real talk. I actually don't know what the fix for this would be.
This is tough. I wanted to talk about that a little later, but yeah, let's get into it right now.
The most copies of a spell you can cast in a turn is 10. Like if
15.
you make Hush free, if you make Old Hush free and cast the same one 10 times in a priority, I do think that like they capped that, but it just doesn't work on this because priority is changing each time.
Yeah,
it seems pretty rough to fix this because obviously we just talked about how mana bumps won't fix it, right? Because I mean, like they'll like deal with it, but eventually, like the point is we're playing a 0-cost thing that's making all of our things 1 cheaper. Like if we can do that, we can go infinite eventually. I suppose if you make Navori Conspirator 3, like it's going to be so hard to ever go infinite that like it's probably just completely off the tables at that point. And maybe a soft ban like that would be reasonable enough. Maybe the deck is just so completely unplayable that if you see it, unlucky. It's like stepped on a landmine. The deck's so bad that they shouldn't combo off, and if they do combo off, then you should just concede. And maybe that's an okay spot for this deck, to be honest. Like
I still don't think so personally. I think that because that's why I brought up the even if it's bad thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because
totally.
How do you fix it?
So I don't think okay. It's probably going to have to be some sort of Akshan nerf or
what?
Make the
just remove the cost one less
make
text.
make
maybe?
Navori Conspirator not target. Make it so the Navori Conspirator doesn't tick down the landmark.
Sure.
I actually don't think that that's the kind of nerf they can do without
Yeah, that seems
just
like a major.
I don't think that can work because I think it would have this giant splash damage or make specifically Conspirator work
differently from
different
other
than everything
recall
else.
cards.
I mean, you can just make it as a cost. I already thought it was a cost to play it, and it didn't target.
It is worded in the way it is as a cost, and it just happens to still trigger it.
Right, and so I mean, I imagine you could
But I'm
take
saying when
that
you word
half
it
out.
like that in this game, in this engine, it does trigger Akshan's Landmark. I'm pretty sure Mask Mother does too.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, I
And
think so.
Spirit Leech, yeah.
Yeah. So it feels like a hard thing to be able to just patch out. I think that maybe the easiest answer is just remove the cards cost -1 this turn or whatever from his Warlord's Palace.
That's a messy fix.
It's not that bad, is it? Right? Like,
You you gotta get to replace it with something.
make it draw 3 cards.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Why not? It's already like, to be honest, that one's usually not the best one anyway. I don't think so. Like, I wouldn't mind it getting I don't know. It might even be better at draw 3 cards than it is at draw 2. Maybe you'd pick it more often. I don't know. It feels like at current, I always pick the predict then draw a card one on the first one, and then the revive an ally, give everything vulnerable on the second one. Not that that's particularly relevant to this conversation, but as a side note.
Yeah, I think that I definitely can't think of a way to fix this other than the thing that I was thinking of, and this is actually the only decent argument I can think of to keeping the deck, is that the problem will, I believe, fix itself in a bad way, but I think it will fix itself in that this deck cannot really be played on ladder. It is entirely, if you're playing this deck on ladder, it's a bad decision.
Bad decision.
Don't do it. It takes so long. Your games actually take
the only games
30 minutes.
The games that you win take 30 minutes or more, and the games that you lose take 7.
Exactly.
At most. It's bad. The time to the win to loss ratio on your time is horrible. If you sit down and play 4 matches in a half hour, you lost 80 LP. If you sit down and play 1 game in a half hour, you gained 20. It's not worth it.
Yeah, unless you're an absolute monster on this deck, you can't climb.
And if you're an absolute monster on this deck, then you should really go play a different deck, because you're probably an absolute monster at Legends of Runeterra. So
yeah, also that I do think that if they do nothing, the problem will fix itself. This deck will just stop existing because people will realize it's a horrible idea to ladder with it.
Yeah.
Even if it was broken, even if it was super good.
Ooh, I don't think so. I have a counterpoint of Grim Patron Warlock or Warrior from Hearthstone.
It didn't take that long.
No, but it
Anywhere
took a
near
long
that
time. The games were long, man.
Because the game's okay, whatever. I don't remember them being that long personally. I thought it was 15 minutes, but
I mean, like 20, or they were 30 a lot of the time. Especially when it started being the mill deck with the Cold Light Oracles and the Control Warriors and looping stuff. That combo took a long time.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
If it's the best deck, people would play it on ladder for sure.
People would play it, but I think that the moment that
but it's not the best deck. Let's
right,
get that clear.
It's not the best deck. And even if it was, a bunch of people started playing it, it is definitely
very
easily counterable.
Yeah, which we talked about earlier.
And the things that counter the deck are really low to the ground, fast aggro decks, which consequently generally make the best ladder decks because they're fast and win games quickly. So all of a sudden, you're just gonna have people playing more aggro, and you're just gonna get put into the dirt. And
horrid place to find yourself with a ladder deck.
Exactly. And I just
repeat bodied.
You just can't ladder with this deck. And I think that's why the problem would cease to really be an issue. It's just a matter of should this be allowed to exist? And I think the answer is also no.
So now I want to transition this into, you talked about how this would fix itself in the ladder. I want to talk about tournament scene.
Yes.
And this deck's existence
and that's the hard part.
In a tournament meta. So there's a few very real variables here that change in a tournament. One, there's a timer on the match.
Yep.
You won't be able to hold your opponent hostage in a tournament game. You'll lose a match for that.
As you should.
As you should. That's in pretty much every tournament rule set, just as a base. If you're going to be taking the same action over and over again without being able to win the game, like that is an unacceptable tournament behavior. So you can't do that. So that problem is dealt with. That's good. There is a problem though that there is a real timer on the match. You have 50 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes or however many minutes, a specific amount of allotted time to complete your match. And if you have to play two decks two times against this deck, or you have to play the deck twice or whatever, it's going to be tough to win the game in time enough. Like a lot of the time, especially if you have a long game 3, like it's very easy to imagine like the timer being a real issue for this deck, and largely to play it too. So like that's something real to consider. Also, there's bans, so you can potentially get better matchups for the deck. I mean, what do you guys think? I think it gets kind of messy.
I think that I think this deck is actually. I'm fine with people bringing this to tournaments.
I think it's kind of a good tournament deck. I don't really
fun
want to say
fact,
it. But
I believe that it actually works how we very much would not want it to work, in that you can take all the time in game 1 and then not get punished for it in future games. But maybe that depends on which tournament it is.
Yeah, there's a little bit of it's actually pretty dense, but I read through the tournament timeout rules for the seasonal.
Ooh, that's
at
interesting.
least. And it was pretty. It didn't make a lot of sense, to be honest. It was kind of poorly worded. But yeah, I think Noble's right. Like basically, if game 1 goes to time, is like game 1 takes forever, and then game 2 happens. Like the winner of game 1 will win. Kind of how you think it is. It's like there's unfortunately you can like eat all the time in game 1 and then theoretically time people out in game 2. This is how the seasonal tiebreaker like matchup thing was announced to have worked. I don't think that really any any non-Riot Run tournaments would operate like this. I think they'll have a slightly different rule for timings because they aren't going to have as good of access to that particular structure, and they usually run their own timing type things. So,
also, any sane, reasonable person would operate it like somewhat like a chess clock.
Yeah, or something, So like, this it feels like there might be an issue with the actual like if this is a deck come the seasonal, and to be honest, I really suspect that it won't be.
Same.
I think that will be we're really going to need to look at those rules and see how the timeout works. But like for each individual tournament too, I think the timeouts thing is gonna matter a lot. So I think that this deck is gonna be okay in a tournament format for the most part, because if you're registering a tournament and you're playing against a combo deck, you should know what you're getting into for the most part. Like, you registered for the tournament. That didn't mean you wanted to play against this deck, but in a tournament,
it meant you had to think about it.
Yeah, you have a lot of incentive to just concede for time. There's a real reason to just, I'm going to need more time in my next games. Alternatively, it's a tournament match. So there is a real reason to make them show you the absolute last card they need, right, to demonstrate a loop. Yeah. Because it's a tournament match. It matters more.
Yep.
So there's a really interesting dichotomy there. There's a particular tournament going on this weekend that I'll be actually commentating. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll be putting the details for all of that in the description below. So if you want to see me cast a pretty fun Runeterra Invitational, that'll be in the description. But anyway, like one of the TOs actually put up a poll on whether or not this deck should be legal. Given these circumstances, at the time of recording, most people are saying that they do think that this deck should be legal in tournament. So
I agree with them, assuming the timer works in some reasonable way, and you can't sit there, eat up all the time in game 1 and have it not matter in game 2. That's nonsense.
Yeah,
that's not okay. But if it does work like on some sort of chess clock system, then I think the deck is fine. If you're playing the deck, you know what you're getting into. You're running the risk of timing out by playing a deck that needs to take a lot of time to combo, and you made that choice.
Yeah, and if you are in the middle of going to it's you have 10 minutes left in your match and it's game 2 and it looks like you're going to lose, like, it's okay. You can just concede and go to game 3 or whatever, right? Like, if you need to do it, it's okay. That's a real strategy. It's a real part of tournament strategy, and it's a really hard part of it, which isn't tested much, which is probably good. But
probably a healthy thing
it's probably
for the
the best that most people don't have that decision a lot on whether or not they need to concede for time. But as somebody who,
because like the catch is that it's, if you're up a game, you shouldn't concede.
Yeah.
Because if you go to time, you're going to win. And if you're down as game, conceding ends the match. So it only really matters if you're very deep into a game 1 that you think you will eventually lose.
Or if you, basically. I've been known to frequent a particular location known as the tank. So I find myself in the concede for more time in the next game. Somewhat frequently, but...
I did just test it against the AI, by the way. Both Mass Mother and Spirit Leech do count down the landmark. And also, fun fact, if you possession your opponent's lurk creature, and then Chronicler of Ruin it comes back without the lurk power, but stays yours forever.
How about that?
Oh,
the more you know.
Okay.
That's cool.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Wow.
You love to see it.
Interesting.
You got a new 1/1 with Fearsome. Congratulations. Great. Yeah.
Hey, it could be a 2/3.
Yeah. Maybe even... Nah, it can't really,
maybe
it can't really be any bigger than that. Yeah, I was going to say.
It could be a 2/6.
That's huge, dude.
2/6,
man. How'd they make them that big? So... I am looking forward to seeing what they do with this deck. In general, I think that infinite loops as a whole are not, like I said, I think that they could be interesting in a potential future of this game, but I would like to see them executed in such a way that maybe it's like a 3-card combo at like burst speed would be fine, so they don't die. The priority passing thing really makes infinite combos in this game kind of a hassle.
Yeah, I like, to be clear, I think infinite combos should be allowed. The problem with this deck is not that it can go infinite, it's that it goes infinite slowly. It's so glacially slow.
So just obnoxious.
Like there are infinite combo decks that exist in other games where the moment you establish a very simple loop, you just say, "Oh, I have it now," and then you're dead on the spot. Like you are just dead immediately.
I love the games where you can just like you can just reveal your hand and your opponent just like picks them up on the spot.
Yeah.
Like that happens the most in Magic for sure, because like it's kind of hard in digital card games to reveal
your hand. Yeah.
But like in Magic or like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, I've seen it happen sometimes too. Like sometimes you just go to your like turn 3 and you just show your opponent your hand and they're like, okay, and then you go, like you don't even have to play a single
card. It's like the ultimate power move. It feels so good.
Yeah, there's a particular person I know who plays Magic around here who I think who is infamous for
scooping them up.
For the like, here's my hand, you're dead now, right? And then if you have the audacity to look at him and be like, what, really? Can you show me? He's like, I'm going to play this, then this. You're dead.
I love it. The best part is when he's wrong.
And no, here's the best part. If you have the audacity to ask him to play it out, he will play it out, and he never messes it up. He's one of the best because he's earned the reputation for it. So like he's the only person like in the area that he'll just show you his hand and you can see it every time because he will never miss it, which is pretty sweet. So
never mind. I don't know who you're talking about off the top of my head. I thought I knew who you're talking about. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. It does. Okay. So that behavior bugs me just a tiny bit because if you have interaction and make them play it out, it's very clear that you have a way to stop it, and then you're not going to get them nearly as hard with it, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, that's fair. But anyway, that's a side point. I think we've kind of talked this one to death. I'm excited to see what happens in the future with this loop deck. Don't play it on ladder. It's not worth it.
It's a bad idea.
Let's get on to the rest of our questions for the week here after covering our
hour-long question of the week.
Yeah, our thesis on infinite loops in Legends of Runeterra.
All right, so the next question we have is from Merciless Carinal. There are a lot of people hating on Shurima power level. how do you feel about the power level of Shurima in the game right now?
So I have two answers here. One is from my brain and one is from my heart. And I'll let you guys decide which one's which. I think that Shurima is in an excellent spot right now, and I like the fact that all the units are curved out really effectively. It makes it feel like you can get under people, and it makes it feel like your aggressive creatures have a lot more play to them. And then also, my second take is, yeah, they're probably a little overtuned. So
yeah, overtuned is the exact word that I would use.
Just a little overtuned. So
you look at all these cards, and like a lot of them have one more power than they should, or conspicuously have a keyword or two that you're like, was Spell Shield really necessary here? Was
Spell Shield
fearsome necessary on this Merciless Hunter?
Ruin
I
Runner.
think a good example of a balanced one is I do think Treasure Seekers is just fine. That's very good.
No,
I
think that's
See, here's the problem I have with all these Shurima cards, and it's that I don't think any one of them in particular is each individual card I don't think is worthy of attack. It's the collection, because I think they're all just the slightest bit too efficient, and it really do have to play like 2 or 3 of them in a game to, I think, sort of like feel the extra card that you get in the early game almost every game out of just having better units than your opponents do for the mana cost. And I don't think Ruin Runner is too good by itself. I don't think Merciless Hunter is too good by itself. I don't think Treasure Hunter is too good by itself. But man, when you play all 3 of them in one game, it feels hard to win, man. Like, it feels hard to lose when you're doing that.
Like Akshan even. Akshan I've honestly been a little unimpressed with. I would encourage people to do their own testing and come to the conclusion of whether Zed or Akshan is better. I've kind of, I don't know, you just very seldom get the value out of the Warlord's Horde off of Akshan.
Yeah.
And the regular value from the first side is not the best.
My wish list for Shurima is that it is left unchanged for a while. If for no reason other than I absolutely love playing their cards, Shurima has like shot up to my favorite region in this patch. Absolutely, I've been playing so much like Sivir piles and like absolutely been my favorite region this patch. So like I love where it's at currently. So I don't want it to change too much. I think the meta might catch up eventually. Maybe if it's still too good in another 2 weeks, you can take a power off my fearsome off my Merciless Hunter or something.
LOL, Ionia sucks, and Riot was like, Aurelia buffs,
and then 2 mana Twin Disciplines.
No, not this.
So, Shurima has since it dropped, I just haven't really liked it. And it hasn't really changed ever. I still don't really like it. And I was okay with that back when it was garbage. And now it's good. Now it's really, really good.
It is really good, yeah.
And I still don't like it. But I have to play against it, and I probably have to play with it.
Yeah.
And, I just miss when it was bad, man.
That's fair.
It's in a decent place. Like Shurima, there are some overtuned units, but it's finally has a... Actually, I don't know if I'd say it has a good identity, because overtuned creatures isn't an identity.
Yeah, it really does.
It's just sort of like a pile of stat sticks and landmarks that are bad.
A lot of... There's basically just kind of like a package of like 20 Shurima cards that you can just kind of take and slot into most shells. And it turns out it's pretty good. Like I've seen Sivir TF, which is, the same pile of Shurima cards. It's like number 3 in NA right now on the Master Ladder. Maybe let's like lower, but it's on the top front page for sure. I've seen, there's Sivir Zed, Sivir Akshan, Sivir LeBlanc, Sivir Sejuani. I've seen all of these decks. Sivir Gangplank. I've seen all of these decks. They all have Sivir Draven, Sivir Jinx. I've seen them all.
Wait. Okay, so now it is a problem because when you...
I don't think most of these decks are that good, but like you can take that package and just put it into most of the decks, and they work for the most part.
That's a problem.
That's fair.
I think if you can just take a pile of just very good creatures, that's like a core of like just 15 creatures from this region, and you just slam them into anything you want, and the deck is good now.
I think it's an overreaction.
Maybe. And I don't know. I haven't seen these decks.
Yeah,
but
like there's only a couple of them that I think are actually good.
okay, and
And those are
that
ones
one's
that make
honestly,
more sense.
Like, don't know if Rune Runner is good in any deck. Like, it's good in specifically aggressively curved deck, which a lot of these happen to be, but like, it hasn't really felt like the problem. Merciless Hunter is more the one that is good in like literally every archetype.
Yeah, that
Which is,
card
like,
really
maybe a
is.
little-
I mean,
stands
Treasure
out,
Seeker
yeah.
is also just
And Treasure Seeker.
Treasure
yeah.
Seeker's never bad.
Yeah, that
ever.
card's really, really good. So I think that like I don't know. My inclination is right now what we're seeing is slightly an overreaction to the Shurima cards being too good, and people are like kind of trying to make a point. But if all those decks are too good, then yeah, it's probably a
If
problem.
all those decks remain meta,
yeah,
I think would be a good way to put that.
absolutely.
because-
And if one of them is, or two of them even, it's totally fine.
Then
If
it's
Sivir
fine,
Zed's
yeah.
good, great. If Sivir Sejuani or Sivir Ash is good, Sivir LeBlanc, whatever, great.
Yeah.
You know, if there's even a third Shurima deck, maybe like Thresh Nasus or something that's playing like or a Nasus pile, a Viego pile even, it's playing like slightly different units, you know, that's fine too. But, you know, just want to make sure it doesn't get too omnipotent. Not omnipotent. What's the word? Everywhere.
Omnipresent.
Omnipresent.
That's the one. Yes, thank you.
All right. For our next question, Dr. Beeves asks, there are a large amount of Ionia Shurima decks, but they all look and play quite differently. For example, Azarelia, Sivir Zed, Akshan Lee. Is this a region being popular inherent? Is a region being popular inherently a bad thing if it offers varied play patterns?
Is a region accommodation being popular a bad thing if they provide inherently different play patterns? No. I think. I think
Honestly,
the answer
no
is
too.
no.
Like, I think that,
Yeah.
like, it's cool. Like, so, not everyone will get this because it's. I mean, so like, I like that Sivir Zed is like a Sivir Zed Sivir Akshan. It's like an aggro deck with a bit of a combo finish. I've lost a lot of games with that deck recently because people have learned that if you're at 10 and they attack you, including a Young Witch for 8, you should just take it, because if you don't take it, they have a chance to play Flurry. And
Yeah.
there have been a lot of times where my opponents would have been dead had they not hit exactly no blocks.
Yeah,
but they just gave me no opportunity to play tricks.
the community
So-
has figured it out as a
Yeah.
general whole. I won a lot of games to cut with combat tricks from people misplaying when that deck was first coming out, and I have won significantly less.
Yeah, and like, you know, that's, which is different than Akshan Lee, which is different than, you know, these overwhelm decks. And I do think that that's neat. I do think it's probably a little overtuned. Like, I wouldn't deride the region for being popular, but I do think if we made Merciless Hunter like a 4-2 or a 3-3, like, it would not, you know, wouldn't really change that, and would maybe bring back the absolute blowouts a little bit.
Yeah, I think that as long as the decks are playing differently, I don't really care what their regions are. Like, if it feels like decks are giving me divergent gameplay, then that's all I ask for. You know, I don't want every deck to feel the same. I don't care what regions they are in order to accomplish that. Twin Disciplines being at 2 mana means that a lot of decks are coming to Ionia, which is great. I haven't seen Ionia cards in a very long time. It's cool to like think about and play around Twin Disciplines now. It's been a while since we've had to do that. So I'm enjoying the difference. You know, it can get monotonous to keep getting blown out by Twin Disciplines or to keep get Merciless Hunter over and over again. So I do see that, but like most of these decks are very different. I think that, you know, like I said, if we start to see a lot more of the like Sivir TF, Sivir GP, you know, Sivir LeBlanc,
Sivir
Sivir
X.
Zed, Sivir X, with that all have 4 Treasure Hunter, 4, you know, Merciless Hunter, 4 Ruin Runner,
3.
4 Sivir. Yeah, 3, sorry. 3 of 3, 3. I think that then my answer might change. But as of now, there's a lot of Ionia Shurima decks, and none of them are too bad.
Yeah, my stance is basically it's okay if Shurima is in 90% of decks. It's not okay if Treasure Seeker, and Merciless Hunter are 90% of decks. Those are
That
two
sounds
very
about right.
different things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Next question comes from Dragon. What is your most memorable outplay in Legends of Runeterra that you personally have done?
Anybody got one they remember off the top of their head that they want to fire off?
I have
memories of like we've talked before about how the how winning that crucial combat trick turn is often really important, and it's become more relevant now. But like cool things. So I just had a game in which I like used my Sivir to pull a unit with 4 toughness, and then my opponent was like Twin Disciplines toughness, and I was like Twin Disciplines power. Then he was like Twin Disciplines toughness, and I was like Twin Discipline power, and then he was like Sharp Sight, and then I played a +1/+1 Shapestone because I had 1 more power to start with. So the 3rd burst speed combat trick winning there. But I was thinking that whole time, like, he would totally wreck me if he or she had spent the whole time playing the power combat tricks, and then at the end slammed the barrier to, like, win the whole combat, instead of leading with the barrier, because then I would have known not to commit any of my other tricks that were ultimately ineffectual. And I have done that to people before, especially in, like, Fiora things, where I'll be like, tough, and then they'll be like, power, and I'll be like, toughness, and then they're like, this, and I'm like, aha, Rapunzel, or whatever. And that kind of, that's a pretty memorable outplay, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Mine, I told this story like, I don't know, 15 episodes ago or something, like way, way back. But the only one I can never really remember that's at all meaningful was I was playing a ladder game with pirates, and this was back when Captain Farron made 3 decimates instead of 2. And my opponent, my opponent played a Radiant Guardian, procced it. It had tough, and this was back when Radiant Guardian was a 5/5 with lifesteal and tough instead of a 4/5. And then I was like, okay, well maybe I can still win the game. Like this is looking bad, but we're maybe okay.
Impressive resilience.
Yeah, and then he played the second Radiant Guardian. I was like, oh god, oh, there's no way I can win this, right? There's probably no way I can win this. And I was like, okay, no. I'm pretty sure I could still win this game. I think it's possible still. 2 single combats and a concerted strike later, I am much less hopeful about my odds to win. But I do eventually. At this point, I'm like, okay, there's only one way I can win this game, and that is if I see my second Captain Farron wait, chump block the rest away the rest of my board, come back and swing with both Captain Farrons, and then decimate. And I have to cast decimate twice before I attack, so that he can't get the second lifesteal trigger or something like that. And I eventually ended up winning the game because I just like stacked all 6
million points of burn.
Yeah, I think all 6 decimates were eventually necessary in some capacity. I don't remember the exact sequence, but I did win with an aggro deck through 2 Radiant Guardians.
Impressive.
Like 20 healing, yeah, or more, 30.
Yeah, thankfully you can't go above 20. Otherwise, I definitely would have lost.
Yeah, because you can like wait for them to cap out and then have a big turn where you like attack.
Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
That's exactly what I did.
So I was playing for my Game 7 win in Expedition one time. And my fool of an opponent, you see, the masterful player that I am, had drafted Mono Teemo.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And we had peddlers aplenty. Many mushrooms to go around, though Game 7 was looking quite dire. Our opponent was gaining a lot of life. We got off to a nice early start, planted some mushrooms. Eventually, all of my peddlers were disposed of swiftly through various forms of bilge water and Noxus removal spells. The occasional get excited. And at the end of the game, I had one measly little Teemo. The little Teemo who could. And my opponent was at 11. I attacked with my Teemo, put him to 9. My opponent had so much more than lethal on board. I was at 1. I had no cards in hand. A measly Teemo. I thought I was going to get burned out. My boy gets in, doubles the amount of puff caps from, like, I don't remember the exact number, something like 30 to 60. And my opponent draws 1 card with, like, 16 or 17 cards in his deck. like 20 cards at least. It takes 9 and died. He took 10, I think, even. I think I overkilled him by 1.
Wow.
Absolutely outplayed. Shit on. Next.
So you're
What an outplay. Yeah,
that is a
excuse
sick
me.
outplay.
You got owned.
Wow. All right. Next question comes from Sna Info Blah. Timo Zed, yay or nay, / what triple aggro lineup is looking good this season?
No.
It's a hard pass
Actually,
for me.
I downloaded that deck. I saw it on the NA Master Ladder. I took a look at it. I imported it and immediately deleted it. I was like, I will not be caught dead with this in my gallery. I have a reputation to uphold.
I've lost to the Noxus Fizz version. You can put Brothers Bond on Fizz, and that's a lot of damage. Is kind of what I learned from that little experience. Little tryst.
I haven't played against it yet, but I've heard good
Fizz,
things.
It's good. Yeah, I've
Damn.
played it.
I played against Draven Jarvan, and that crushed me.
That sounds hot.
Yeah, it turns out Draven's
There's
just
a lot of
a
cool decks
nasty
this
card.
patch. A lot of cool stuff going on. I'm very excited for the seasonals. Which I guess I need to qualify for because I'm in Plat fucking 2.
So
I swear, lovely listeners, that I'm trying maybe not my hardest, but I'm playing good decks and I'm playing them at least 80% capacity. And I just have, I don't know, I'll play 5 games with Siverzed and go 3-2, and then 5 games with Viego and go 3-5, or 8 games with Viego and go 3-5. Viego is very real, but I haven't found a shell that I'm quite happy with yet, and that experimentation has meant I've been kind of fluctuating at a pretty median amount.
Yeah, and as for the second half of this question, what triple aggro lineup is looking good this season? That is a bad question to ask me, because I will never, ever, ever play triple aggro in any tournament lineup, period.
I actually have a lot I want to say on this one.
Okay,
because
cool.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I made a promise to myself that I was going to think about tournaments a lot more. And a realization I've had, I was talking to some other people too, is it's very hard to build a triple aggro lineup right now because the Shurima aggro cards are so important. And if a lot of the tournaments are still region locking, so then it gets really hard. But in your specific decks, we talked a little bit earlier about how you can bring various forms of Shurima Ionia decks, but you can't bring more than one exactly Shurima Ionia deck. It feels like you're probably going to, if you're bringing a triple aggro lineup, it's probably Shurima X, like Shurima X or something. It's gonna be hard to get a lot of diversity in those. So I'm not too confident that the triple aggro lineups are going to be great. I think Draven Fizz is actually quite a good contender. I think it's a good tournament deck too. So as far as triple aggro goes, I think that I would play something along the lines of Siverzed or Sivir Akshan, and then Draven Fizz and whatever the third deck you're most comfortable with is.
Pirates is quite well positioned, it feels like.
Yeah, I agree with that at least.
One thing, like you're saying, I was thinking halfway through this season that all the best decks I'd played recently, I could make a lineup out of, and it would be 3 Ionia Shurima decks. It would be Siverzed, Lee Akshan, or the Akshan combo deck, one of the 2 Akshani combo decks, and Azir Aurelia. It's oh, cool, this is a good rounded tournament lineup deck with 3 different archetypes, all in the same little section, and all playing the same cross section of cards. But I do think it is really cool that it works like that.
Yeah, and so I think that the tournament restrictions are actually kind of getting in the way a little bit more than we've seen them in the past here for the triple lineup players. So
because both Shurima and Ionia are just so good.
Yeah, because I just want to put Sivir in every deck. But
all right, and our final question comes from Reynard. Why male model?
For the money, baby.
What is?
It's a Zoolander reference.
Okay.
Really? Oh,
I actually didn't get the Zoolander reference either.
what? Oh,
I hate to confess, I missed it.
wow.
I haven't seen that movie in a very long time.
I mean, I know you haven't. All right, well,
Disappointing.
that was. I was
Huge
hoping,
miss.
I was hoping one of you would
Yeah,
pick up on it.
my bad.
Well, one of us did. That was just you.
Yeah,
Okay,
you got it. Good work.
Great.
We're the one.
One of you was supposed to be able to answer the question, but okay.
Yeah, we picked the wrong person to ask.
I guess so.
Have read the question. All right. Well, anyway, I want to thank you all for listening to this week's episode of Champ Select. If you're interested in joining our Discord, you should absolutely be in the Discord. There's a link in whatever description or in the description of whatever platform you're listening to this on. Like I said, I'll be casting a tournament this weekend, Saturday, July 24th. So if you're interested, make sure to check that out. I think it's starting at around 9 a.m. Pacific.
What's the tournament called, Alex?
The RCO, the Runeterra Chosen One, Runeterra Chosen Ones tournament. I'm not sure the exact Twitch channel.
Invitational only, right?
Yeah, it's invitational only,
cool.
Unfortunately. I'm not sure the exact Twitch channel it's being streamed on, but like I said, I'll have that all figured out. The links will be all in the description with all the details, so you can go ahead and check that out if you would like to watch. Without further ado, I think we will see you all on the next episode of Champ Select. Bye-bye.